Of course, we are all pretty excited about what has happened in the US. It was something that was not predicted, yet not surprising if you really know what has actually happened in the domestic politics of the United States. There were, of course, many issues there. But as you know, with media, this is one thing you've got to be careful about media. If you followed the CNN, you would definitely say Clinton was going to win because the CNN was also biased. And I could detect this bias even quite early. I said to myself, hey, how is it the CNN is projecting Hillary in such a positive light and Trump in such a negative light? I became suspicious. So when I became suspicious, I said, well, then the story could be otherwise too. That Trump has a 50-50% chance of winning. And it happened to be that he had even more than a 50% chance of winning. So let's try and contextualize US policy in this part of the world, in Asia and in general, and also ASEAN and Southeast Asia, perhaps even Malaysia. Now, does a change of president mean completely that US foreign policy is going to be extremely different from what it was before? What is the role of institutions? Do institutions socialize the man? And I think that's what President Obama also said, that it's one thing to make all kinds of campaign promises. Campaign rhetoric is always very hot. Yeah? You can promise the moon, you can promise everything, you can promise even to build a bridge when there is no river. Politicians do all these things. But once they take office, is it the same thing? Are they seeing the same picture? The picture certainly is not same, isn't it? It's different because you are now going to operate under many political and institutional constraints. Big question is, will Trump be socialized into these constraints? Are American institutions, political institutions, strong enough to socialize him so that he realizes whatever he has promised, maybe he can deliver 40-50% of it, but he cannot deliver the 100%. No politician can deliver 100% of whatever he has promised anywhere in the world. Sometimes if they can deliver 30-40% is already good enough. So of course he's going to be held to account. But let us now see how the US-ASEAN relationship has moved. So we are actually moving from the known to the unknown, really. Yeah? So how much of the known will remain known? And how much of the known will be unknown under Trump? This is really the question. It's good to see that so many of you are here, students who are interested in American foreign policy. It's a pity that you don't have chairs to sit down and you have to stand throughout this session. Alright, you can see in terms of the US-ASEAN relationship, it's always good to begin with what we know, because we have to stand on some platform. And as academics, as researchers, we always proceed from known data and then we make the necessary predictions based on what is already there. That is the way to proceed in academia. Yeah? We don't simply pluck things out of the air and say that Trump is going to do this and that. But let us see what he can do based on the institutions of the United States and how US foreign policy has operated and how US national interests have been basically stable. Whichever the president, whoever is the president, they must pursue American national interests. And these interests are not just determined by the president. There is the Congress, there is the House, there is the Senate, there is the bureaucracy. There are many institutions, the CIA, the FBI, the various agencies. They all also contribute to formulating the national interest, not just the president. Yeah? He can say a lot of things, but you realize a lot of things that he says needs to be processed through the institutions themselves. Alright, you can see how the US-ASEAN relationship began in 1977. And of course, the communist threat was the motivating factor as to why ASEAN itself was formed. ASEAN was initially moved more by security concerns. Only later they talked about economic and other cooperation, but security, anti-communism was the cement that brought the 5 ASEAN nations together. Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines. Yeah, the history clearly shows that. Then as we moved towards the end of the Cold War, you can see that ASEAN began to have a higher profile. It's also because the US profile was declining. So you have to see the US power, the waning of the Pax Americana as creating power vacuums. as creating opportunities and spaces for other nations, for other power centers to arise. So even China's rise now, you must see also in terms of the decline of the Pax Americana. Yeah, we can talk about that. So there you find the end of the Cold War, and then ASEAN coming into its own, and ASEAN now being given an opportunity not to focus anymore on the communist threat, that was over with the collapse of the Soviet Union, but to focus on definite issues like trade, investment, technology, development, human resource development, and much more political, social cooperation. And then they also included the security dimension after 1976. There was the Bali, the first summit in Bali in 1976. Then they began to move towards many other areas of cooperation. Now let's move very quickly to the Obama administration, and I only have about 15 to 20 minutes. Now you can see that by 1990, and especially between 1990 and 2001, this was a period of American unilateralism, you can say, because basically the Soviet Union, the other power had basically collapsed. So America was the unipolar power. So for about 10 years, you can see we were talking about hegemonic stability. You remember the concept of hegemonic stability, because there was only one hegemon. The other hegemon had collapsed. But this lasted until 2001, you can say, with the collapse of the Twin Towers, the terrorist attacks in the US, and where America for the first time realized that it was no longer invincible. America also could be defeated, it was no longer in that unique position of invincibility of the United States. So that was a reminder in 2001. Then America began to move, as you know, under Obama towards more multilateral policies, simply because unilateralism could not be sustained. America could no longer do anything by itself. It was also beginning to lose its grip on the economy, world economy. The Pax Americana, as you know, today in the economic dimension is dead. Pax Americana in the economic dimension, dead. So where is the Pax Americana, where American power still can be felt? It's in the security dimension. So in the security dimension, if you look at the East Asia, America is still very dominant as a security provider for East Asia. And Obama, of course, he had to go multilateral because he could not be unilateral anymore. So he decided that it's time that he works with institutions in this region. You can go to the second slide. He needs to work with institutions that are already established, such as ASEAN. So you find that the Obama administration focused more on Asia, focused also on Southeast Asia, focused on ASEAN, and ASEAN gained higher prominence because also of the US interest in ASEAN's centrality and ASEAN as a political, economic, and regional institution. So you can see for the first time Obama recognizing, the United States recognizing the ASEAN TEC, the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, which basically emphasizes principles of non-interference and also to create Southeast Asia as a nuclear weapons-free zone. The United States was not very anxious at that time to participate and endorse ASEAN because it wanted to reserve the right to intervene. But as time went on, you can see the United States power had to be shared also with other rising powers, such as China, especially India also rising. So there are new power centers, and Obama quickly realized it's time to be more multilateral. Otherwise, the US will lose even more influence than it already has lost.